My name is Joseph Wonders, a professor of engineering, architecture, and computer science. Today we're going to talk about master plans and community development, including LEED. The students in this particular class have a project related to designing part of the campus. So we're going to keep it in that context. Screen. Media controls. Okay, so this is my website. We're in architecture courses here, and syllabi. We're in this course here on green architectural engineering. This book, and we're down in here. So we've already gone through standards and basic real estate developments, both ancient and modern, and then some basics of thermodynamics as a prerequisite for learning advanced HVAC controls, and also design of passive and active in other ways. And we're right down in here now, right in climate and design master plans on this day. So firstly, we're at Elizabethtown College in Pennsylvania. There is a governing body, a city called a borough nearby. We also have townships on this part of the country. And we're in a county, Lancaster County, in the United States. So this kind of governmental partitioning varies by where you are in the country. I've experienced townships in different places on the east and the Midwest and the South, but not so much on the far west, where it's pretty much counties and then cities, and there's no townships. And counties are very big, and cities aren't always incorporated, so the counties will be the governing body there. But we are here in Pennsylvania, zooming in here, Atlantic Ocean. We're near Philadelphia, Washington. There are transit corridors we want to talk about, because in the context of today, we want to talk about a number of things, including access for people in different places, locally within the community, but also the ability to get here from other places. So there's an Amtrak train that goes right to Elizabethtown from Philadelphia to get to New York and Washington, Baltimore. There's no trains going up, down directly from Baltimore, but it's easy access by highway. Harrisburg is our state capital, close by. Susquehanna River is a huge, wide river, not very deep, doesn't run very fast, but it was big enough to help stop the Civil War moving north. We had the largest battle in the history of the country in Gettysburg. 50,000 people died right there on their way up here to take Harrisburg and then Philadelphia. But this major river was a big blockade to stop that. So that's as far north as the South got. Civil War. Also, the Revolutionary War was fought here. George Washington's headquarters in Valley Forge, capital in Philadelphia, actually got moved temporarily to Lancaster during the war. There were Indian trails before that, and there were actually Indian battles here right before the Civil War. So this is a very historic area. Amish are all around here, so that's a cultural context that the students should keep in mind, as well as the agricultural base. This is not a big manufacturing area, it's mostly agricultural around here, but there is a good deal of manufacturing, not as much as the Midwest, down in Lancaster, and not so much as Harrisburg. A little bit in Middletown. So we're in Elizabethtown, that's our context here. Town. And there are three major entities here as the college. Elizabethtown College is here. There's also a M&M Mars factory here, not really big, but you can smell the chocolate all around. And then a very large, perhaps I believe maybe the largest retirement community in the world. I have to verify that, but Masonic homes. And so those are the three main players here. So when the students, they're going to do in here, I haven't announced it completely yet, but they're doing a project in here. And it's typical in my courses to do a land development project and then a building project. So the first is a land development project where they need to consider the entire context of the community, politically, culturally, see what kind of lead points you can get for integrating with community initiatives. And to know that, you have to kind of know what the initiatives are around there. So you know agriculture is going to be preserved. But we also have some other things, including the retirement community with an agenda there that could overlap some of the college's needs. Our closest affiliates, bigger universities up here, Penn State, Hershey Medical Center, up in Hershey, up here, almost down Hershey, and that's where the Penn State Medical School is. And so we have a very big biology pre-med programs here, big STEM programs here. A nationally ranked, pretty highly ranked liberal arts college with strong engineering, strong STEM, and strong biology, chemistry. Okay, so that's Google Earth. It's also Google Maps, the same thing, but sometimes you get different images. And then we want to go now and to look at the master plans. So let's start further out. We'll go, now we could start with the United States, but there's not, or the state itself. The United States, the way our government works is we pretty much let the states self-govern land use, and anything that would be related to building would not typically be at a federal level of regulation, except for some EPA kind of things, and certain standards that localities would adhere to. But for the most part, the state would be the first, the highest level that would get involved in land development. And then even so there, they don't really get that involved. It's pretty much the county level. And the county does very much get involved, even when they're incorporated townships. I didn't put a township on here, which I could have for the master plan for the township. But we want to just look at the borough and the county, and then at a micro level, the college. So this is the website for the Lancaster County website, and you can drill down in here and look at plans and revisions and major goals, green spaces. Tourism is a big thing here with the Amish. Also, well, Hershey's actually in a different county. Hershey is not in Lancaster County; it's a county north of us. And so there's a lot of details in here. We won't go into all the details, but this is something the students might want to take a look at in their next assignment. Then we have, after the county level, we have the borough. So there's an incorporated city here. Most of the campus is in the city, in the borough. Some of it's not. So sometimes our planning, I'm involved with a lot of the building for the college, and sometimes we have to deal with the borough, sometimes with the county, sometimes both. At the state levels, there are some regulations with the Department of Environmental Protection here, the DEP, but that's not so much usage planning, but specific permits for water, wastewater runoff, and how you affect wetlands and water flow. So there's a downtown master plan, and then there's a lot of more detail for the borough here, and so this is constantly being revised. So this one's 2000. I won't go through all this. So every one of these plans, every time there's a master plan, whatever level, government, college, or whatever, they have goals, they have major land use, usage kind of districts, areas. And you can see here that this is the concept plan here of what they would be referring to when any kind of new development comes up, especially if you want a variance. So if you're going to build in an area that's not intended for what your usage is, you have to go in front of the board, the regulating board, borough here would be in this case, and propose a variance. You'd want an attorney, you'd want to put some kind of documents together. If you are having a major impact on another usage area, you want to typically show mitigating measures that you're doing, giving something to the community, maybe creating parks, wetlands, something to make up for the fact that you are changing your usage with a negative impact. So we have light industrial, retail, business, residential. Now, in the construction industry and the architectural engineering, you typically break into commercial versus residential. And in commercial, you usually group in there also retail and business, and sometimes light industrial, but that's sort of a thing in itself. And office is also commercial. But for land use planning, you get a little more specific. Some concept drawings done. This is the borough, the city that we are next to. You can see the goal. This is actually built. I sometimes take students on this walk. You can take a walk from here if you want to. Go down to the E-Town Park. Most of you know where that is, right nearby. And then follow the creek. And then along the creek, that'll eventually turn into a walking brick paved thing that goes all the way to the railroad station. And then there's a tunnel under the railroad station all the way to the Masonic Homes. And walk there. It's a couple-hour thing to do. Definitely worthwhile to get a feel for the context of what the ruling body near us is looking for. So that's something you want to look at. And there'll be a new assignment coming up where I'll spell out exactly which things you might want to look at, but you can drill down more in other places. And there's lots of other things you could look in here I won't go into. Okay. And then we want to go back to now the college itself. So we are in E-Town College here, and this is a previous assignment here, but there's maps in here. This is not the assignment the students are doing in here. This is for studio classes. And I'll adjust the link here, but all the maps that I want you to look at are in here. And so they've seen this, the students in this class have seen this, and they're having a different assignment. It's a similar master plan. So we are, right now, recording this in 2022. In 1999, the college paid $300,000 to Dirk and Edson, perhaps the largest and most well-known architectural and engineering and land use planning group in this region, in Lidditz. And then they did an update in 2011. And the trustees here are still referring to these master plans, even though we were, for a little while, considering a different planning group. The students have already looked at this, and they have an assignment here to create a new college, assuming we turn into a university, which we're headed towards already. We're already breaking colleges, or reorganizing colleges. And that's the first step to being a university. Although there's many schools that call themselves universities that are smaller than us, but really the best thing to do is to have established colleges. And so they're looking at, students are looking at potentially another college out here, and that would be either a medical school or a law school or a new school of sustainability, which is now catching on in a lot of places. We have one recent engineering grad minor in architectural studies that went on to the University of Pennsylvania in their sustainability master's program. Donato, and so also maybe an agricultural school. There's farming all around here, and or something else you could think of. Maybe something relating to dealing with and helping the Masonic homes with the elderly there. We already have occupational therapy and physical therapy and physician's assistants programs here that I believe do work at different degrees with the Masonic homes, but that's something to think about. So students have freedom to design that. We'll talk about that a little later. Now this is an older plan. This is a 2011 update to a 1999 plan. Since then, we've built a $24 million facility right here, the Bowers Center, and these fields have changed. There's development going on, but there's lots of land still in the cracks around here. We have a photovoltaic array over here. So the students are to look at all this area and squeeze in a campus somehow. And they could propose even redevelopment of, moving a parking lot if they thought that was needed. Actually, I don't think this parking lot actually got built here. This one, I believe that's still a wetland up there. And we have, so there's still a lot of land over here. And that's up to the students to get very specific about this. They have an assignment right now to do that. in this class to survey this whole area. Okay. Here is a little project that was done that show you a Revit model. So the students learn some Revit in here. We don't have a laboratory here. They're asked to learn a little bit of it on their own. There's a little bit of tutorials, and they're given the option in some cases to use other software if they can justify it. Although they're in teams now, so might be leaning towards giving options there of software and freehand sketching and other things to do in that. But this is something not required here. This is using Revit software and then porting it into virtual reality. Hold on a second. Turn up the volume, I think.
And original working drawings of the buildings by the original architecture firms.
Let me preface this. So there was a former vice president that was here, Bob Wallach, and we were real close, and he got me the original drawings for a number of buildings here. And then this student's actually my son. He was our first individualized major in architecture. Developed a lot of what we see here from original drawings in the 1980s, and some of the buildings we had, working drawings. They weren't in CAD. He had to actually digitize all of them and then get them into Revit, which is 3D modeling software with your current database. We'll talk all about it. And then also wrote some software to interface with virtual reality equipment. And then he also did work with the library to get archived blueprints of what the campus looked like long ago. And so in virtual reality, you can go to 100 years ago and then the present. So that's what you're going to see
here. This is the Elizabethtown College model in the present, which I made using Revit. Every building here was modeled individually using measurements taken from Google Maps, as well as CAD drawings and original working drawings of the buildings by the original architecture firms. First building here made was the High Library. It has the most detail of any building on campus in this model. And the second most complicated is Leffler, which has these rainbow cloud colors, which I used so I could accurately texture map all different parts of the building. So now I'm going to show you the 1924 model. A little bit more low-key. It's a dirt road and two buildings. This is the old Alpha Hall. This is Ryder Hall. Over here, as you will see in the VR model, there's an orchard. And that's all there is for the model. And right now, I'm in front of Untitled Chapter. You can see a bit of the interior, and behind it you can see the academic quads. I'm going to take you around the back here of Leffler, so you can see the new Sports Fitness and Wellness Center called the Bauer Center, which was built in 2019. There's the Master Center for Engineering. This is the old Thompson gym. And there's locker rooms. And right now I'm going to head over to the dorm buildings. So straight ahead of me is Brinzer. And past that, you can see the windows of Ober. To my right here is where the pool is. Right now, I'm in the back of the BSC. And while I'm over here, I'm going to show you some of the High Library, because this is where this project all started. Take you up the steps here. This is the High Library. You can see I got all the really fine detail, even the columns and the Muntin bars and the windows. Here is the present day Alpha Hall in 2020. And right now, with the press of a button, I'm going to show you what E-Town looked like in 1924. So let's go. Right now, I'm at the front driveway of this is the Town College in 1924. To my right is an orchard where now the Dell hammocks are, if you go there today. Here's Alpha Hall as it looked back in 1924 with interesting shaped windows up there, which are no longer there today. You'll probably notice to my left here is a building called Ryder Hall. This was demolished a long time ago. You see, the campus was pretty sparse back then. Aside from the orchard and a couple dirt roads in the buildings, this was essentially it. And that is my project. So, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed my senior capstone project of Elizabethtown College in the present day in 1924 in virtual reality.
Do you love Gantt charts? Here's massage setting.
Gantt charts, okay. Well, I'm glad you know Gantt charts and PERT charts. You live by them if you're a project manager. The critical path. Yeah. Okay, so. Oh yeah, Gantt. I know them well. Okay, so that was that. I want to go back in here a little bit. A couple more things for the college. Now this. If you click on this, this was an old assignment. I think I'll leave it up here just for reference. But this was an old assignment for designing different housing. So these are potentially real projects. I've been on committees where we've talked about all kinds of things, including at one point, one president, 2 presidents ago, with Carl Strickberg, was we're going to do a PP3, potentially a public-private partnership for $40 million to build new dormitories. That was a very in-depth process. So, but that's not up here. But college housing and renewal of housing is still on the agenda. COVID set us back some, just keeping up with that. But we're moving forward. We've got a committee meeting tomorrow before they present to the trustees of where we're going. So these are potentially real projects. They're still, the trustees still refer to this master plan. And we haven't commissioned yet another plan yet. And there's a lot more details you can find in here of these other maps. So you'll see in here the land use broken down, just like you saw with the borough master plans. You'll also see views and existing views, potential axes in urban design and planning. You think about axes. This is a not so nice axis any longer because this is Cedar Street and it goes back to the Bowers Center and we have a lot of development back here. There's a lot of conflict between students walking and cars. So you'll see in a number of projects in the past, and perhaps in this class too, talking about moving the entrance, the main entrance. There's a Cherry Street back here, which is already kind of worked its way through with a path, bringing all the teams and everything on the buses and the events for the Bowers Center. But that's something to think about. This is, oops, there's another, I see here, you have major roads, minor roads, primary vehicular entrances, secondary vehicular entrances, tertiary parking areas. And you'll notice that some of this, you'll say, what, there's a parking space back here? I actually park back here sometimes. There's a creek you have to drive across to get there. And we've just bought all of these houses along here, so this is a whole potential redevelopment area that a number of students have done projects for me in other classes. But the students in here are mostly dealing with up here, which is somewhat untapped territory up here to make a new college campus. You'll see here on the next map, major pedestrian pathways and minor ones. So this, of course, has changed. This was before the Masters Center, even before the Hoover building. But you know, some of this still exists. All this walking and pathways around this area is still the same here. And then you'll see the two of them put together, the roads and people with conflict areas, major vehicular pedestrian conflicts. And these still exist. This is Cedar Street, and this has gotten worse here now that the Bauer Center's back here. This is Alpha Hall. We talked about getting rid of this whole drive as part of this $40 million potential project to redevelop this whole area that got put on hold. That was a major thing. We brought in developers from all over the country and architects from all over, and they presented it. And I was there with the 4 trustees and the previous president on that, and that was almost went. COVID came, presidents changed. Now we have another president. So, you know, priorities change, as they should. But you see, now this is no longer here because we built Hoover building. This used to be a road coming right through here. There's now the business building right there. So some of this has been changed, but the students should still think about this, like, you know, okay, you're building a new campus here. Maybe you're going to have the campus extend across the street to where the photovoltaic array is. That's a major vehicle pedestrian conflict there, because this is a major, you know, for this area, a major road. It's not a highway, it's more of a major road than internal roads. And then engineers, a lot of engineers in here. You want to think of underground electric utilities. Not that you want to focus a ton on this, but we have a certain infrastructure here. So you have to extend the power grid up here, the septic systems, the flood control, the runoff and the hardscape. It's somewhat sloping down towards Lake Placida, which is a retention pond. We had to expand the size of this when we're putting a hardscape up here. Might have to do it again if you make a home college over here. But some of this land slopes over this way. We filled in a whole quarry over here and actually did away with some wetlands that were there. Talk to the biology department about that. So the students should be thinking about a number of things. And let me go back in here. And they don't have this full assignment yet. And I may use this recorded lecture for other courses too. So in general, you want to think about all of those things that we just talked about there. Vehicle paths, pedestrian paths, conflicts between the two, views, and then infrastructure too, electrical power. And then we have a steam generated system, a steam heating system with pipes going to certain buildings here, the main plant. So you want to think about some of that. Now, we also want to now talk about LEED, and there's a whole thing coming up down here a couple weeks from now. So the first thing will happen in here is a friend of mine is a professional architect, been practicing for 20 years, has his own firm, worked in a large firm for a while. He's a registered architect and LEED certified professional, and he's going to come in here and talk about LEED in general and some of the projects he's worked on. And then in the studio later on in the afternoon, we have our studio classes, and he's going to talk about net zero projects. So he's built his own net zero projects where the building generates all the energy it needs to use. That's the idea of net zero. So LEED and net zero is beyond LEED. I mean, LEED doesn't require net zero, but you certainly can get a good certification level if you're doing net zero. So we're up here now. I'm just going to touch on LEED neighborhood design. Now you'll see there's 21 different categories of LEED, and the two that I like to break into is something with neighborhood design, you know, a new plan typically, and then the B, D, and C, which is building design and construction, major renovations. Now there's different things you can look at. So when I worked in the building industry, so I'm 61 years old. I'm half high tech, half architecture. But until I was 30, I was mainly architecture, and so I built buildings in Texas and California, $100 million worth of buildings for developers. And we would build speculative shells. So we would do cores and shells. So you would make a shell, you make a building that doesn't have any internal walls, excuse me, other than the utility core. It would have elevator shafts, plenum spaces, a main plant for heating and cooling, electrical distribution, main trunk lines above the ceiling grid, and a ceiling grid not complete but mostly up. And then you would rent to different tenants, and you would give them an allowance called a tenant improvement allowance, is so many dollars per square foot, and then an interior designer, space planner, not interior designer, but an architect for space planning specialty would come in and fill it in. But the reason I'm mentioning it, because you can do a whole core and shell checklist where you're not worrying about how everything's built out. You also get very specific about retail or hospitality. Now, we may do schools here because I'm asking for a new campus to be built. So I haven't signed this yet here, but the first assignment that's going to be coming up is ND plan neighborhood development. And you'll see there's some very specific things that you just have to have, or you're not going to get any certification. So you can get certified, then you get bronze, silver, gold, or platinum, but you can't get any certification at all if you don't meet the prerequisites. So it just has to be in a smart location. There's the, I'm not getting the details of that. And you know, if there's certain species and ecological communities that are at risk, you have to consider that. Wetlands, you don't want to wreck wetlands or some kind of conservation. We have ag preserve around here, and you don't want to go counter to that. Floodplain avoidance, you're building in the floodplain, which you're not allowed to do in the first place, but if you're doing that, you're not going to get certified. And then there's a lot of other things. So these are all smart location system linkage. We're going to come back to all these things. And then you get certain points here. So you either get yes, you know, and typically the full points value, if you get yes, a question mark, and you get some partial amount, or no, you don't get anything. And then you don't have to get all the points available to reach any certain, you know, to reach a level, but certain point levels will give you different things. So we're going to go through all these things and talk about all these coming up, not today, but this is part of building a green community and getting a certification for that. All right. So, yes, so we're in here and we're doing this. Now the students, we use this Canvas system here for this course, and the students have assignments. So they just broke into teams, and I partially have the people, everybody in teams so far. So we'll come back to this. Our groups of 3 here. Let's see, I have all these people in groups, and there's a couple people here. I mean, you can just tell me after class. This assignment, making teams, isn't due for a couple of days. Most people have something where I could tell what team. So there's teams of 3, 1 of 4, and 1 student doing a special project, professional commission. And then we have coming up an assignment. Oh, so first the assignment they just did was this one, formation of teams. And so they were at the site. They needed to say something nice about each of their teammates, but then a video also is supposed to say something about where you picked to talk about. I'm not going to pick at that too much because you don't really know the site that well. Some people already submitted. So, but I do want to hear the 3 nice things about your teammates. It's only 30 points. So I just want you to do this. And I think everybody did it, or they're still putting it together, but I have enough submissions. And so you state 3 things about each of the people, that skills relevant to the project, nice things, which I like to do in general. Okay. And then the project itself coming up, the next one, this is really the first step in the semester project, which is a team project, and referring to the teams that were just made. And then we already did climate and site design presentation here. We just looked at these master plans in county, and so referring to all these, you want to walk around the entire perimeter of the campus. Again, this is for one specific course right now. It's just for your edification if you're in another course later on listening to this on YouTube. So refer to the master plan, take 10 photos of site elements that are part of the campus that you think are the most significant to the potential design of new buildings for a new school or the college. For example, a law school, medical school, architecture school, agricultural school, school of sustainability, etc. You come up with some other kind of school. Emphasize whatever subject matter you choose: architecture, engineering, culture, horticulture, topography, views, the sun, the wind. You should know where the sun rises and sets, which way is north and south, where the prevailing winds are coming from. That's one of the first things you do in any site analysis. seasonal variations. Most of the time people are here not in the summer. So, designed for winter and a little bit for summer because we rent out things. But it depends what you're intending your college to do. Some of these colleges stay functional in the summer to different degrees. Historic preservation, there's not a lot to preserve in this new area. Community outreach, there's a lot to do there. Service in general to the public, financial incentives that you can think of, maybe grants that can, somebody just got a big grant for over $1 million for school sustainability, Dean Atwood and friends. Somebody might want to go and think about how that could fund the college campus. Potential partnerships with maybe Masonic Homes or the Hershey Medical Center, that kind of thing, or anybody you can think of. Potential further campus expansion. There's actually 100 acres right a half mile away that are up for sale. Now, a little bit of a hike for students. But anyway, athletics, do we need new facilities? We just built this $24 million sports fitness and wellness center. Unfortunately, if we spent another $6 million, we could have made it NCAA indoor regulation size and then leased it out, but we were already under tight financial constraints there. Spiritual uses, this is a lot of churches in the area. Perhaps somebody could use this space, rent them out. I was just in the Spooky Nook this morning, which is a huge facility they rent out for conferences. Big churches use them too. Meditative spaces, quiet spaces, mind, body, spirit, all these things. What do you want to emphasize? And then potential new walking paths, biking paths, parking, water features. There's a creek running through there. There's wetlands. How do you want to use that to your advantage? Label and number all your photos on a nice site plan where I can easily identify where they are, as well as having captions under each one. This is a group project now. And then select 2 photos. So now we're going to have a perspective drawing exercise coming up in here, maybe on Monday. But until then, you can, if you want to get started on this, click in here and you can see, a lot of you have already done this. Architecture minors all have required drawing class. So they already have that, and you're on teams too, remember. So this is one nice thing. I can actually require perspective drawings of a team because most likely somebody has these skills. If not, you can learn it. You can do it very much in an engineering sense with guidelines and understanding foreshortening. And then, it doesn't have to be super high quality. And this is stuff, showing off some of my son's stuff. He was also a minor in fine arts, so this is some of his drawing, but he might have. And there's a bunch of tutorials he did here in past years for other students you can see. But he might come in and do this live, or we might just do some kind of exercise here. So there's a bunch of tutorials in here, and you can find a million tutorials online also. So yeah, I asked for 2-point perspective. This is something I did in 1981 when I was a student. Most of this is my son's stuff. He's much better at drawing than I am. And his tutorials are in there. So you can look at all that. And again, we'll have some time in class to work on that. I wouldn't try multi-point perspective unless you know you can draw really well. And then it's supporting other stuff there. All that. So, okay. And so, in addition to the caption below each photo, by the way, this is 200 points, so there's 1,000 points in the class. So this is 1/5 of your grade is this. And then there'll be another one coming up soon, which will probably be a lead and community development site plan kind of thing. And then the final project will be the campus with buildings and certain drawing requirements for that. So yeah, do all that, upload just one thing. It automatically, in our Canvas database, if one student puts it up there, it'll show up in that team, and then I just grade the team. So you don't have to worry about it. And we're going to do reflection essays and all that stuff. If you're a group of 5 or something, maybe we have to do that. But otherwise, I assume you divide the labor evenly, and then if it can't work for you, then I'm sad for you, but I don't need to know. If there were 5 people, I'd probably want to know because you have to manage each other. But 3, and you had time to take groups together. Okay. So let me do this here. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna stop recording now. Sure, see, stop recording. Okay, good. And hopefully that recorded my